You like the sight of your own blood?
Biggest gang of raiders I've ever seen.
Pack of drugged-out killers.
They're human garbage.
Psychotic and completely unpredictable.
Goddamn savages laid his body out to rot.
They're addicted to every stim, every pill, every psychoactive enema on this fucked up earth.
One of the biggest gangs in the Commonwealth.
High-end mercenaries. No job too brutal.
We're gunners, for crying out loud. We don't retreat.
Got a rep for being crazy. You know, so tightly wound, you think they were a cult or something?
So this is the sort of detail you had in mind when you signed up with the Gunners?
Who's pulling the Gunner's strings? No one knows.
Faction lore is my favorite part of Fallout. It fascinates me how societies and groups coalesce and evolve throughout the post-apocalypse. This is something I can ramble on for hours on end, but there are two factions in particular I would like to focus on. Two factions that differ vastly in presentation, lore, and implementation. One, an elite, military-trained mercenary army, a group that can be found in every corner of the map. The other, a brutal raider gang holed up in some ruins around a vault. Today, we're discussing the differences between the Gunners from Fallout 4 and the Fiends from Fallout New Vegas. We'll be examining the lore of these factions and how they influence and interact with the world at large. Those of you who are fans of the Fallout series are probably thinking that this is a very odd comparison to be making, but I trust my rationale will become apparent during the course of this video. The video will be structured like this. First, we'll briefly go over the relevant lore of each faction. Then, we'll talk about their role in the narrative of the game and how they mesh with the world. And lastly, we'll pose some frequent questions that pop up about the faction and see if we can come up with some satisfactory answers. The Fiends, as in Chem Fiends, are a gang of raiders operating out of the South Vegas ruins, conveniently located just across from the main NCR HQ in the Mojave, Camp McCarran. They are drug-addled equal opportunity lunatics who consider anyone and anything free game, except for Legion Mark caravans, but that's hardly unusual, considering what the Legion does to raiders. According to the NCR commanding officer at Camp McCarran, Colonel Shu, and the official game guide, there's nothing particularly exceptional about the Fiends, except for the fact that there's a lot of them. I guess drugs and the vague notion of caving someone's skull in with a piece of sporting equipment makes for a pretty enticing recruiting pitch. The grub is surprisingly decent too, from what I hear, just don't ask what or who's in it.
The occasional traveler lost in the wrong part of town.
Their equipment and modus operandi are no different from your run-of-the-mill raiders. They wear standard raider gear, with Fiend helmets being the only noteworthy piece of apparel. Weapon-wise, they use basically anything they can get their hands on. Most notably, however, they also use energy weapons. The Fiend's main base of operations is Vault 3, one of the 17 control vaults. To be clear, the Fiends are not vault dwellers. No, what happened was the Vault 3 dwellers had some water leakage problems and decided to open the vault and trade with the outside world to get the parts to fix it.
I guess it isn't a secret. Yeah, the residents of the vault are all dead. We killed them. Funny thing is, they just let us in. We didn't have to force the doors or anything.
The NCR is having a rough time trying to dislodge the Fiends. Patrols are getting ambushed left and right, morale's in the shitter, and reinforcements and supplies are scarce due to the NCR being stretched thin all over the Mojave.
The long 15 just keeps getting longer.
Even the 1st Recon, the premier sharpshooter unit of the NCR, is not making progress, and neither are the Rangers. One was sent to assassinate Mode Runner and hasn't come back and is presumed dead, and 2 more are confirmed dead. The situation is so dire that they've resorted to using bounty hunters, which has somehow been working out.
See, I thought the bounty hunting trade would be easy money, but it turns out it's hard work, so screw it.
Now let's look at the quests that directly involve the Fiends. 3-card bounty. The Coyotes. I don't hurt anymore. Abba Dabba Honeymoon. I put a spell on you. Nothing but a hound dog. I could make you care. No, Not Much also deserves a mention, but let's first have a gander at the unmarked quests. A final plan for Esteban. Bounty Killer. I love bananas. There are also quests that, while having nothing to do with the Fiends, indirectly push you towards dealing with them. Like the quest, No Not Much, where you're tasked with scrounging up reinforcements from different NCR bases, including Camp McCarran. The catch is, everyone is in their own special brand of knee-deep shit, so you have to help them out before they can afford to reassign personnel. Same goes for the quest Suits You Sarah and Still in the Dark, which take you to Vault 3 to retrieve specific quest items. Most of these quests also have dedicated Radio New Vegas lines for before and after the quest completion.
Citizens of Outer Vegas are flocking to the Strip in droves amid a wave of terror caused by a band of raiders known as the Fiends. According to a new report, violent crime is on a sharp decline in New Vegas. The report credits the decline of the population of Fiends in the area. In possibly related news, local chem dealers report an overall decrease in their standard of living.
NPCs, both named and generic, will comment on the state of the Fiends and react appropriately. Mostly everyone is happy that they're dead, except the Great Khans, because it's hard to sell drugs to dead people. Characters who have a history with the Fiends react accordingly to their deaths. Pretty Sarah and Betsy, who were both victims of Cook, acknowledge you killing him and give you a reward. Diane complains they've lost a steady source of income due to you killing Motorrunner, and Bert Gunnarsson mourns the passing of Nephi.
So long as the cons keep making it, I keep getting high.
So long as the cons
Single issue voters. The leader of the Fiends is a sick son of a bitch called Motorrunner. He's called Motorrunner because he uses a chainsaw. This appears to be standard naming practice among Fiend leaders. He's located in the reactor level of Vault 3, with his dogs Bone Nash and Gnash Bone. His lieutenants, sure let's go with that, are Driver Nephi, Cook, and Violet.
Back again? Jesus.
Driver Nephi is a former New Canaanite. He was a friend of Bert Gunnarsson, a doctor in the Aerotech refugee camp, who followed him west out of concern. The feeling is not mutual.
That scaly, corpse-looking fuck. You tell him.
His weapon of choice is a golf club named Nephi's Golf Driver. He hits people in the brain with it. He's killed so many NCR troopers to the point where the first recon will help you pro bono, just so they can kill him personally. They even give you a bonus for letting them do it.
Fiend dogs, tear you up. Arf, arf, arf.
Violet is situated in Violet and Violetta's trailer compound. Together with a pack of dogs, she raised herself on a steady diet of chems and human flesh. The only unique dog is Violetta, who's fucked up on turbo, if her brain's anything to go by.
Hey there, sweet thing. Want to ride on the Cook Express?
The last, and certainly the worst, Cook. Cook enjoys burning people alive and performing acts that require consent, non-consensually. As I'm sure you've surmised, he's fond of his flamethrower and wears metal armor with an arc-light helmet. Outside of that, he's a shockingly decent cook and has a pet Brahmin called Queenie.
She's the prettiest Brahmin in the wastelands, aren't you, Queenie?
If Queenie is killed, he enters into a frenzy and starts attacking everyone around him.
Oh, Queenie. I'm gonna burn the world for you, Queenie.
There's a few more fiends that I'd like to go over. While not that important in the grand scheme of things, their inclusion makes the world feel more lived in. For example, Lil Buster, a bounty hunter, mentions he killed fiends Jackson and Night Terror before the events of the game. There's also Duke, who's located in the Zaps neon signs near Vault 3. That's where the signs used to fortify the South Vegas ruins comes from, by the by. And Raz, a former member of the Fiends who joined up with the NCR. Although I don't think his story adds up, since he claims to have grown up in the Boneyard and joined the army to get out. But he also claims that he ran with the Fiends and has the connections to prove it. Some stings here, and it's not Cook.
Ugh, did he always smell like this, even before he was dead?
With all that being said, let's ask some questions. Why has the NCR been unable to wipe out the Fiends? Where did they get their chems? And how did they get their hands on energy weapons? Let's take it from the top. Why has the NCR been unable to wipe out the Fiends? In order to understand why this is such a pressing question, we have to talk about what the NCR is and their goals in the Mojave. The New California Republic, colloquially referred to as the NCR, is a post-war democratic republic spanning from Redding to Baja California with a population well over 700,000 tax-paying citizens. They have a functioning legal system, their own currency, and a fully funded military with standardized equipment. The NCR is in the Mojave for reasons we don't have time to get into, but the bullet points are: Hoover Dam provides power and fresh water to the core regions in California, the Legion, an army of slavers which poses an existential threat to the NCR, and New Vegas, which once annexed will provide fat stacks of caps in tax revenue. Keeping all this in mind, how is a nation with such vast resources having problems eliminating an ordinary raider gang? And how are bounty hunters making infinitely more headway than some of the best soldiers the NCR has to offer? Captain Karen's second in command, Captain Curtis, is a Legion spy who's been reporting all NCR patrols to the Legion every night, who then forward it to the Fiends. This explains how people like Lil Buster and the player managed to bring down the Fiends in such a short amount of time. Curtis can't account for our movements because we're freelancers and don't report to him. The Legion have a vested interest in keeping the NCR occupied in whichever way possible, so sabotaging the camp from the inside and assisting local raiders is right up their alley. To compound the issue, Camp McCarran's quartermaster, Sergeant Contreras, is selling supplies on the black market. It's heavily implied that some of these supplies, namely the medical kind, have been making their way into the hands of the Fiends and the Great Khans.
I'm just a businessman doing business.
But then again, if you help him out, he becomes available as one of the best merchants in the entire game and gives you a unique M1 Garand. So who am I to judge? Where are they getting their chems? The Fiends rely on a large amount of various chems to maintain their ranks. A very large amount. The only faction with the means to supply such a demand are the Great Khans. The Great Khans are the first raider tribe introduced in the Fallout series, appearing in the very first game as raiders harassing the settlement of Shady Sands, the future capital of the NCR. Yes, these fucks have been beefing with the NCR before it even existed. This generational blood feud eventually culminated in what's now known as the Bitter Springs Massacre, where a breakdown in communication resulted in NCR snipers gunning down dozens of fleeing Khan civilians. Due to their storied history of getting their teeth repeatedly kicked in, they've been reduced to manufacturing and trafficking camps out of Red Rock Canyon. The fact that the Fiends are close to the Red Rock Canyon and happen to be enemies with the NCR is a very happy coincidence for the Khans. Fittingly, the quest Abba Dabba Honeymoon is about delivering chems to various people, including the Fiends. The Khans too have allied themselves with the Legion, because Khans hate the NCR, Legion hates the NCR, the sky is blue, let's move on. Where are the Fiends getting their weapons? For this section, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to give you some background information, pose some rhetorical questions, and let you draw your own conclusions.
I tell you all this because I want you to know that this man means a great deal to me. Do it. Never break faith with the Van Graffs, Mr. Soren. I expect you'll have the rest of our payment ready tomorrow morning.
The Van Graffs are a merchant family dealing in energy weapons based out of Redding, California. They operate several branches, one of which is the recently acquired Silver Rush Casino in Freeside, currently run by the siblings Gloria Van Graff and Jean-Baptiste Cutting. In normal circumstances, operating an energy weapon retail business in the open would warrant a visit from the Wasteland's favorite tech quarters, but most of them are busy being dead, and the others are hiding. With the Brotherhood preoccupied, the Van Graffs started plying their trade and selling weapons to anyone who can afford them. And I do mean anyone. Just because the Van Graffs are from California, that doesn't mean they like the NCR. Far from it, in fact. However, they are also smart enough to realize that they can't beat them, so might as well join them and make some money.
My family has enough men and guns to field a small army, but the NCR can field a really, really big army.
This thread is followed in the quest Birds of a Feather, where you help the Van Graff set up a deal with Caesar's Legion, only for them to double-cross the Legion by selling them out to the NCR. These points leave us with two questions. Number 1. Would the Van Graffs, a family known for cutthroat business practices who have zero reservations about double-crossing very, very dangerous people, manufacture a crisis by supplying arms to the Fiends at a loss in order to get a lucrative contract selling weapons to the NCR? Number 2. Why is the Legion buying weapons they have no interest in using? I won't be answering these because I'm trying to be as objective as possible and there are no definitive answers in game. I'm just showcasing that even though we don't have a concrete answer to these questions, we still have enough background information to piece together a plausible explanation. That about wraps it up for the Fiends. Next up, the Gunners.
Get fucked.
The Gunners are a mercenary group operating in the Commonwealth. They're not bound to a specific area like the Fiends, rather they seem to exert influence over the entire Commonwealth. Notably, they prefer to set up shop in critical infrastructure such as telecommunication hubs, vaults, military installation, and overpasses. Especially overpasses, they love highways. Basically, if it's a highly defensible position with a good vantage point, or a site containing high-value equipment and or technology, the Gunners will be there. Their most notable trait, however, is their military-like organization and training. The Gunners utilize ranks, with the lowest being simply Gunner, and the highest being Gunner Brigadier, short for Brigadier General. Presumably. Gunners have standardized uniforms, all of which incorporate the color green. Combat armor is the standard for all regulars, while irregulars have to contend with leather armor or no armor at all. High-ranking members have their blood type tattooed on their faces as to signify their rank and prioritized treatment. Weapon-wise, Gunners use, well, military weapons. Assault rifles, plasma rifles, laser rifles, missile launchers, fat men, you get the idea. This will be a bit different from the Fiends section. Originally, I wanted both the sections to share the same format, but decided to drop it because of the lack of content on the Gunner side. Sure, the Gunners are present in way more locations, quests and whatnot, but it's very much a quantity over quality situation where I was just listing off NPCs and quests rather than talking about them. And frankly, most of what I wanted to say was already addressed in the introduction anyway. Instead, I focused on specific locations and plot threads associated with said locations because I feel it makes for a better narrative experience. Captain West is the leader of the Gunner operations in the Commonwealth. He's located in the Gunner HQ, Gunner Plaza, with two other members, Ryder and Kurtz, and there seems to be a friction between these three. So Ryder doesn't like Kurtz because Kurtz retreated, which is not something Gunners do, and Captain West assigned him to HQ duty as punishment. But as it turns out, West ordered Kurtz to retreat, which surprised Kurtz because, again, Gunners don't retreat. I have no idea what this is supposed to imply. At first, I thought it might just be politics. Kurtz is well liked, and West is concerned he's going to usurp him. But Kurtz seems to be a model soldier because he obeys orders and doesn't question his superiors. Furthermore, if West actually wanted him gone, why did he give him such a light punishment? He could have easily stripped him of his rank, according to Ryder. West is up to something, although I'll be fucked if I know what it is, because this never gets brought up anywhere else. And the only way to discover this inter-rank rivalry is to kill everyone involved and pry the holotapes from their cold dead hands. Unlike the Fiends quest, there are not many quests directly revolving around the Gunners, nor any quests that serve to further develop them as a faction. Most of the time, the Gunners are just kinda there. For the sake of brevity, here's a list of quests that are semi-interesting, but not so much as to warrant talking about them. Alright, now let's focus on the interesting stuff. McCarty is a companion in Fallout 4. He has a whole backstory that's not really relevant right now. What is relevant is that he used to be a gunner. When we first encounter him, he's getting harassed by his ex-colleagues for, quote, operating on Gunner turf. Eventually, he'll ask us to help him wipe out a Gunner outpost as payback.
That should send a message to the Gunners to stay off my back.
You aren't afraid the Gunners will retaliate?
The way these lunatics act, you'd think they would. But I know better. The Gunners, it's always about the bottom line. And they just lost this entire way station, and that cost them big. Besides, they have no way of knowing I was involved.
Hub City Auto Wreckers, a junkyard turned gunner outpost led by Captain Bridget. The outpost's primary purpose is to keep tabs on locations of interest. They had some skirmishes with a local raider group called the Forged due to gunner defections. The gunners didn't seem to fare too well, and the Forged started receiving a large influx of recruits due to, quote, being a gang that defeated the gunners. Entertainingly enough, none of this is mentioned in the gunner logs. At some point, gunner higher-ups sent an expedition to Nuka World, a known raider stronghold. It went about as well as you'd think. They lost comms with HQ, a third of the expedition died, a third hunkered down and awaits reinforcements, and the last third fucked off and deserted. Two deserters even got married and had a kid. To their credit, they do send out a rescue team after them, after like 20 years. Quincy is among the most interesting and consequential locations in Fallout 4, and one of my personal favorites. It is the catalyst for the first main quest, and much like the quest, it all starts with the Minutemen. The Minutemen were a militia formed out of the various elements of the Commonwealth. Their mission? Protecting people at a minute's notice. The Minutemen's rise to fame was defending Diamond City against a horde of super mutants. They even attempted to organize a Commonwealth provisional government, which ended in failure because of some bullshit that came out of nowhere. Then their HQ, the castle, got destroyed because we had more bullshit that I don't have time to complain about, and that was enough to shatter the organization into rival factions because nobody could agree on a proper chain of command. Despite this, most Minutemen continued to defend settlements where and when possible. Until Quincy. Quincy, as we're told, was one of the largest and most prosperous settlements in the Commonwealth. This made it an obvious target for everyone with guns, numbers, and a loose set of morals, including the gunners. The mayor of Quincy petitioned the Minutemen for help, but only one company, under the command of Colonel Erza Hollis, answered the call. The company managed to repel the gunners, but didn't have the numbers to defeat them. A request for reinforcements was sent, but none came. The town's fate would be sealed by Minuteman defector Clint. Clint was a Minuteman veteran of 10 years who became disillusioned with the Minutemen due to their bickering after the fall of the castle. He believed the gunners are the only ones with the strength to bring order to the Commonwealth, and helping them orchestrate a massacre was, apparently, the best way to go about it. Clint attacked from the overpass, turned the siege into a massacre, with only 20 settlers and Minutemen escaping. The settlers who escaped were led by none other than Preston and other settlement needs their help marked on the map Raving, would eventually end up in Concord, where the surviving settlers would be rescued by the player. As for Clint, he got bumped up to lieutenant for his troubles and was charged with leading the Quincy detachment along with Tessa and Baker. He has a very distinct look, power armor, militia hat, and a unique laser rifle, good intentions. Cute. Now you'd think it'd be smooth sailing from here on out, but as it turns out, betraying your own comes with some baggage. As Tessa puts it,
"You can't tell me you trust this guy. I may have been a raider, but I never rolled on my people the way Clint did."
Tessa is a raider turned gunner. She wears the power armor with a unique power fist. She served with the Gunners for over 3 years and is very disgruntled with Clint's rapid promotion. Clint keeps her from stirring shit by sending her out on missions, something that Baker takes note of. Baker can be found in the church tower wielding a missile launcher and a Ushanka hat. But let me tell you why this location is one of my favorites. The first thing that caught my eye was power armor. This is one of the only locations where Gunners are scripted to wear power armor. Why? Well, because they found it in Quincy. In the church tower, there's a terminal that reveals that this used to be Sturge's workshop and that he was trying to fix up some power armor for the defense of Quincy. He wasn't able to do it in time, so when the Gunners took over, Baker finished the repairs and gave one pair to Clint and the other to Tessa to calm her down. But where did Sturgis get it? From the Atom Cats, a gang located near Quincy who specialize in all things power armor. I like them because they talk funny.
You, Jack? You slayed!
But wait, if the Atom Cats are near Quincy, and they're sitting on a stockpile of power armor, why haven't the Gunners attacked them? They do, in fact! It was mentioned in the quest list before. But let's back up a second. What about Preston? If he and his group legged it all the way to Concord, surely there must have been some casualties. He mentioned that by the time they got to Concord, they were whittled down to only 5 survivors, and in locations such as Jamaica Plant and Lexington, we can find bodies belonging to the group, including outside the Museum of Freedom in Concord itself. Speaking of, when we do first encounter them, they are under siege from raiders. A very large group of raiders who have already lost almost twice their number trying to overwhelm the small group. Kinda odd, but raiders will be raiders, right? You'd think so, but no. What I didn't mention at the beginning was how the mayor of Quincy even knew there was a large force of gunners advancing on the town, because Mama Murphy saw it in a vision. Yes, psychers are canon to Fallout. This is also how the group survived this long in the first place and why the raiders are attacking them. The raider boss Jared was a kid from Quincy. He knows about Mama Murphy's abilities and has been trying to replicate them to little success. This is all detailed in his terminal entries, including conditional ones that only trigger if you'd somehow already wiped out other gang hideouts in the Commonwealth. Same goes for most other gang leaders' terminals too. Does any of this have anything to do with the Gunners? Not directly, but is the one and only example of world interconnectedness in Fallout 4, and I wanted to talk about it. Now let's address some common questions. Where did the Gunners come from? Why do they act like a military? How do they get all their equipment? How do they make money? Why are they occupying key locations? And finally, is someone secretly backing and controlling them? Let's address these two first. How do the Gunners get all their equipment? Well, they probably scavenged it. We just have to suspend our disbelief and ignore the fact that most major military installations are completely untouched with fully functioning security systems. But then again, multiple people mentioned that the Commonwealth is unusually rich in technologies, and I'm inclined to agree. Considering you can't go 2 feet without tripping over power armor or a military-grade sex bot.
I'm a woman, baby. Can't you tell?
Wood. How do the Gunners make money? They're mercenaries, they get money from doing mercenary things. But I doubt that's enough to offset the cost of having to, pay out wages and purchase supplies to upkeep an entire army. Especially considering they seem to fail most of their jobs. There's always a possibility of a mysterious benefactor funding them behind the scenes, to which there are scant few references about, but it's never elaborated on beyond that. In regards to the other 4 questions, well, this is where the conversation gets difficult. And by that, I mean the conversation stops because there's nothing to talk about. So instead, let me answer a different question. One I think everyone who's made it this far has. What's the point of this video? World interconnectivity. In this video, I wanted to illustrate the importance of background writing and interconnectivity. In Fallout New Vegas, everything is interconnected to such a degree that you don't even notice it. Somebody mentions a location or an event, and more often than not, it's referenced by a bunch of other people as well. Example, Bitter Springs Massacre. In the grand scheme of things, a very minor event, referenced by everyone, which has multiple quests revolving around it, including a companion quest. There are several characters who are present on both sides and all have different opinions on it.
Could be that a few of those cons didn't die from NCR bullets.
And the Great Khan's whole questline is more or less about the consequences of the massacre and getting their revenge on the NCR. In Fallout 4, you get things like the Broken Masquerade incident, the Commonwealth Provisional Government, the Quincy Massacre, of which only the latter is a location and barely anyone mentions it. I'm not even going to get into University Point, because I just realized while writing this video that I still have no fucking clue what happened there, and I'm willing to bet you don't either. All of these events are brought up once or twice and never talked about again, which breaks my heart because they sound so damn interesting. Compare this to Fallout New Vegas, where a character in Prim outright mentions the plot of the last Fallout New Vegas DLC, and that's a theme that's repeated throughout the entire game. Both in the base game and in the DLCs themselves, different DLC content is constantly referenced, so the DLC's story and character never feel as if they exist in their own little bubbles, but rather as part of the larger narrative. Speaking of bubbles, what incentive is there for you, as a player, to go to Gunner Plaza? None at all. No quest lines, no special rewards, save for a bobblehead, no comments from NPCs, no radio lines, no nothing. In the Fiends section, I went into great detail about the Fiends and how they mesh with the game world. Perhaps a little too much, but that was the point. To show how much thought and effort was put into the Fiends. How unrelated quest lines and characters reference them and nudge you to interact with them. Even though you never have to step foot inside South Vegas or complete a single Fiend questline. Compare this to Fallout 4, where you're practically tripping over Gunners because it's impossible not to. They're everywhere. You'll interact with them, whether you want to or not. The Gunners are an interesting faction. They're designed in a way that makes the player want to seek them out and find out as much as they can about them. The problem is they forgot to add the content. For all the effort they put into the Gunners, they are simply just tougher raiders. And that's a real goddamn shame.
I'd like a large atomic shake and a double Brahmin burger. And easy on the agave sauce this time.